Hi, this is Tom Burke. Welcome to Public Health on the Inside, your inside look into the world of public health. I am the Associate Dean for Public Health Practice here at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, and I'd like to share with you through our series of podcasts perspectives on the real world of public health. So you're interested in public health, but you want to know, what are you going to do with that public health degree? That's one of the biggest questions I get now from students, particularly in a time when there's lots of uncertainty about employment and the future. I know that students want to know, well, where are the jobs? How can I pursue my dreams? Well, frankly, there's so much more in public health than just teaching and research. The world of public health practice has a tremendous amount of opportunity, and that's our point in here in talking with folks through this podcast with our students. The truth is, it's wide open, and it touches so many parts of our daily lives. There are really great career options. So on Public Health on the Inside, we'll take you to those front lines of public health through the eyes of our students, through the eyes of our faculty, and most importantly, through the eyes of people actually in the trenches on the front lines of public health. So today, I'm very happy to introduce you to one of my former students, soon to graduate, Tala Fakhoury. She recently completed the requirements of our Master's of Public Health degree here with a focus in epidemiology at the Bloomberg School of Public Health. And within a few weeks, Tala, you will begin working with the U.S. Epidemiologic Intelligence Service, EIS. Yeah. And I actually vividly remember when I first met you last August during one of our first courses when the new cohort came in, you stayed after class and talked to me about your concern about cancer. And just if I could give a little bit of background. So Tala is a native of the country of Jordan. And she came to the U.S. in 2002 to obtain her Ph.D. in oncological sciences at the University of Utah's Huntsman Cancer Institute. And very much like I was motivated in my early public health education, you were motivated by the high prevalence of cancer, not only in your family, with aunts and uncles and grandparents being victims of the disease, but also in what you observed in the population in your community. And you began your career as a bench scientist, really examining the molecular pathways as a disease detective to try to understand the cellular mysteries of cancer. But then you made some changes. You realized that there are many other aspects to cancer prevention and cure. And you found your way to the School of Public Health. So I'd like to ask you about your journey. How did you find your way into public health from the laboratory?
As you mentioned, I came to the U.S. in 2002 for a Ph.D. in cancer research or oncological sciences. And the Huntsman Cancer Institute was basically next to the hospital that a lot of cancer patients came to. And every day I would share the elevator with a lot of these patients. And then I would go to the bench and I would do my science. And I was dedicated to knowing the molecular pathways that are behind the disease. But I felt some sense of frustration that there are still sick people out there. And that maybe one day I'll be able to help find a cure at the bench. But maybe I wanted some sort of instant reward. I wanted to prevent cancer. I wanted to see the results of cancer prevention quickly because I've lost, like you said, many family members to cancer. My brother suffered from cancer. So I wanted to stop it as soon as possible. And this led me to wanting to be more involved in public health, moving away from the bench and into the field. And this is when my interest began in looking for schools of public health to get formal training. And afterwards, with this goal in mind, the EIS, or the Epidemic Intelligence Services.
Great. I remember our first conversation about this, and I was struck. We hear very little about the ravages of cancer on the population perspective from the Middle East, but some of the things you were telling me were very similar to the kinds of things we see here in our industrialized states.
Yep. This is, in the U.S. you have a very robust surveillance system. You can keep track of the health and sickness of the population, but we don't have that in the Middle East. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to join the EIS. And I wanted to be introduced to the public health surveillance system in the U.S. so that one day I can hopefully implement that in my home country and in the region.
Now, the EIS, the Epidemiologic Intelligence Service, has a rich history, and a rich history with the school.
training epidemiologists to be out there on the front lines with the states and the federal agencies. But it's a little unusual for a woman from Jordan to be an EIS officer,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes. I'm actually the first Jordanian EIS, so I'm very happy about that. And also my interest is very different from the traditional EIS officer. Typically, EIS is thought to be as these disease detectives that investigate infectious disease outbreaks. Very little do you see work done in terms of chronic disease. So I'll have that unique perspective in EIS in that I'm interested in chronic disease mostly. I'm interested in cancer outcome, but I'm also interested in risk factors that lead to cancer like obesity or diabetes.
Yes. And another course that I remember you from, where we had a wonderful group of students in the risk sciences course where we talked about the cumulative impacts on population health of many exposures, including behavior. And I noticed you're very interested in obesity as a global problem.
Yep. Yep. So a lot of countries, not just the Western high-income countries, are suffering from the obesity epidemic. It's because diets are changing, habits are changing. Even in low-income countries, people no longer walk, 10 miles a day to get to their fields where they farm their land and eat light meals throughout the day. We're switching more towards desk kind of jobs. You have a car. There's little emphasis on physical activity, and the type of diet that's rich in fat, rich in carbohydrates is becoming very prevalent in Jordan and the Middle East. In fact, if you look at the statistics, Qatar, one of the Arab countries in the Middle East, and Kuwait have the highest incidences of obesity amongst youth in the region, even more than the United States. And this is putting a lot of burden on these countries because these youth will grow up, they're probably going to get diabetes, they're going to get cardiovascular disease, and they're going to get cancer. And then most of the countries in the region are not wealthy, and they're going to have to deal with a tremendous burden on economic and on the population in terms of disease and sickness. So something needs to be done as soon as possible. And I'm hoping that I would be one of the people to start a movement to solve these problems in Jordan and in the region.
That's great. So you're moving out from the classrooms and the ivory towers of a university to the EIS. Tell me what you're going to be doing there.
Yeah. So the EIS is a 2-year fellowship program. You get matched with specific divisions within the CDC. I was matched with the National Center for Health Statistics, and I'll be working on childhood obesity. That will be most of my work in terms of analyzing epidemiologic data in the U.S., looking at childhood obesity, probably looking at sugar-sweetened beverage intake and how that affects obesity. But I'll also be doing outbreak investigations, cancer cluster investigations. So the 2-year experience gives you a spectrum of different things that you can do within public health. You can do the data analysis, you can do the investigation of outbreaks, whether infectious, as I said, or whether cancer clusters. You get to meet with the media and discuss public health problems. So it's a wonderful
great.
2-year experience. Yeah.
And I can tell you, being an epidemiologist myself and having worked on the state level investigating clusters, you really will learn an awful lot in the challenges of risk communication, of public health communication. So that sounds like a fantastic opportunity for you. So what courses here prepared you for that? What are the kinds of things you focused on during your MPH?
So one of actually my favorite courses was the risk course because it shows how complex public health issues are and how you really have to have that epidemiologic judgment. You need to know how much data do you need to be able to intervene when it comes to a public health issue? How much data do you need? How much do we need to know? Do we need to do more epi studies? Or can we stop now and say, okay, we need to intervene at this point? So this ability to communicate risk to the public, I was able to gain that from the risk class, but also for my concentration, the epi methods concentration, that was tremendous. I learned so many different tools, different methods to be able to analyze complex data, to present the data in a scientific way. So that was another class that I enjoyed.
That risk class sounds fantastic. Who teaches that?
I think his name is Dr. Tom Burke.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I hear the guys. Okay. Thanks, Tala. You didn't have to say that, but it always helps. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So anyhow, I'd like to know a little bit about the long-term dream too.
Yeah.
You know, I always drive students crazy with this, but I think it's important to kind of have a long-range plan as well. And in public health, there's so many opportunities. What might you be doing after EIS?
Yeah. So a lot of my friends and colleagues say, oh, now you can relax, you have something cool to do for 2 years. And I'm like, no, I have to think about what's next.
Somehow I can't see you relaxing. Yeah, right.
What's going to happen after the 2 years? As I said, before, I would like to do something for my country. And for the region, whether that's going to be through academia or through the World Health Organization or through the CDC, I don't know yet, but I know that I want to help build a robust surveillance program in the region to track the health of the population. That is lacking right now, and that is problematic because by surveilling the health of the population, this is when you can identify public health problems that you need to tackle.
That's such a basic part of public
Yeah.
health, that assessment, understanding the
Yeah.
data, and so many communities lack very basic
Yep.
data to even know what the major risk factors are for death
Yep.
and morbidity. So that's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I've known you as a student and as somebody who hangs out at the Daily Grind too. So can you tell us a little bit about your year here and your experience?
Yeah. This has been I'm going to say the best 11 months of my life. It's really fun to be put in a place with students who share your passion, You instantly form friendships that I think will last forever. It becomes an instantaneous network of other people from all around the world who share a passion for public health. It's a different kind of animal.
It is different.
Yeah, it's
What
very
I love
different.
about it is I'll never be able to see all the places that my students are from, but you bring so much to the school, and each year I learn so much from you. So is there anything else you'd like to tell folks who might be interested in a career in public health, or anything you'd like to add at all?
I think getting a formal training in public health is priceless. It introduces you to problems and issues that you don't necessarily think about on a daily basis, but that underlie everything that we do. When you think about taxing sodas, or when you think about regulating contaminants in the water, this type of work is done by public health practitioners. And as the population doesn't necessarily think about that every day.
Right.
So
We
if you
take
want to be
things for
involved
granted.
in that, you need to get some sort of formal training in public health. But also, if you decide to come to the Bloomberg School of Public Health, I encourage people to be as proactive as possible. There are over 500 faculty, and I assure you that 1 or 2 will be working on something that you really, really care about. Find them and talk to them.
Yeah, that
because-
kind of works out, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they'll help you create a path for yourself after you're done with your studies here at school.
Well, Tala, thanks.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure working with you this year. You're now a colleague in public health practice. I'll see you at commencement.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll keep in touch and maybe have you back for another visit when you can tell us about your work at EIS and beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.